All right, folks, let's go ahead and get started. Oh, that's not it. Let's go this one. Why does nothing work? Well, there's that. Let's do this. Sorry, folks. That should have a thing there. Nope, we're not ending. Still going. Alright, well, we'll wait for the... I guess we don't really need the camera. It'll probably pop up here in a second. Alright, so the plan for today is to focus exclusively on the Explore task, which is one of the two performance tasks for the AP exam, or what counts as the AP exam. And
just real quick, is your music still playing? It might be a little bit loud and hard.
Okay, yeah, because I can't really hear it. There we go. All right, there we go.
I'd just turn the music off, probably.
Yeah, good call. Yeah. All right. There we go. All right. So, goal for today is to completely cover the Explore task, which is one of the two performance tasks that that you have to do for the AP exam. Which, again, folks, sorry, I don't know what happened to my camera. Oh well. One of the two performance tests for the AP exam, and the Explore task is essentially a book report type of thing for some topic in that has to do with computer science, which it can be anything. If it's something you're interested in, that's great, except that what's most important is that it fits the requirements, and something that is some of the requirements are that it has relatively recent um, resources that within the, I think it is it, Mr. Rusi, do you know if it's the last 3 years are as part of the in the rubric for the resources?
I believe it says in there somewhere. We
Okay.
can get to that specifically when we get to
Okay.
the example. Let's
Okay.
say it in the example.
Okay. So the point is we will go over the rubric specifically, and um, all of its details. But the point is that before you even get started, you want to pick a topic that um, can meet all of the requirements. And so it has to be something to do with computer science, whether it's um, self-driving cars or encryption, data encryption, or cloud computing, or I don't know, something to do with computer science. You are going to do some research on it, and there are two deliverables. One is the um, computational artifact, which can be as simple as what would be designed to be a poster type of thing, which you could make in a single slide of PowerPoint or Google Slides, or in Photoshop or Illustrator, whatever program you want. You can make a video about it with some narration, but the computational artifact is um, just a some sort of digital production that has to do with your topic and explains how the topic works. Well, again, there's a ton of stuff in the rubric. The other deliverable, the other part of the assignment, is a written response with references. Um, you need to keep track of your references as you are doing your research. Even if it's a topic that you know a ton about, you are not a reference. Um, you can reverse engineer that reference and go find a reliable resource that uh, you know says what you already know, but you need to have a reference for your information. And so we have the computational artifact, or you know poster, and the written response are the only two things that you actually need to create for the um, digital portfolio. We'll talk later about how to actually upload the work to your digital portfolio through the College Board website. There are, if you go to the College Board website, there uh, is all the information that you need for to do this without our help is there, and we're going to go over some of it. But we will do a stream video about uploading to the digital portfolio, and that's one of the reasons why we are going to have the due date for these two projects before they are due, before the uploads are due, because we want to make sure that you have the actual content done, your deliverables, your written responses, and all those things. You need to have those done a few days in advance to make sure that we don't have technical difficulties or can solve any technical difficulties before the College Board's deadline. So let's just jump right in and start talking about the expectations, or what the um, actual rubric says. Okay, so just breaking down the rubric, each of the rubrics for both of the performance tasks are broken down into 8 rows, and your score is going to be out of 8. You either get the point for the row or you don't get the point for the row. And you need to think about this in from the perspective of the person grading it, which is going to be just another teacher somewhere else in the country. They're not going to know you, and they're not going to see your name. They're just going to get a I don't know how they do it, browser based or whatever, but they're going to see your work without your name on it and decide whether or not it meets the requirements for row 1, and either give you the point for row 1 or don't give you the point for row 1, and then go on to row 2, and so on. So unfortunately, it's not about creating a masterpiece. It's about checking all the boxes and making sure that you make it easy for them to see that you got the point. Um, they, I think the mentality that one would take for grading this is assume they have earned the point until they have done any one of these do not award a point for. And as soon as they come across one of these do not award a point for, they lose the point. If you do any one of the things in this middle column, you lose the point for row 1, and the person grading it just goes on. It doesn't matter if you got every other bullet, or it doesn't matter about anything else. If any one of these are true, which it sounds a little harsh, but it's just another way of wording the requirement for that row. So a lot of this explanation for the performance task is essentially just learning how to follow a rubric and jump through the hoops, which is a skill in itself. So the first thing you need, like we said, a topic. Your computational artifact needs to identify the computing innovation, which I need more videos, more where that's that. Let's go back here. Examples. Okay, so you need it to identify the computing innovation. This one is about blockchain, which isn't as super hot a topic as it was a couple years ago. Bitcoin isn't in the news as much as it was when this content was created, but it was probably the biggest thing then. Now, I don't know. You could probably do something about Center for Disease Control tracking something or other. That's something there'd be a topic there'd be a lot of recent information for. But regardless, the computing or the computational artifact, I don't know why they have to use such lofty language, but let's just assume you're making a poster. If you want to make a video with narration, that's fine. Your poster needs to be clear what the topic is. Okay, in this case, it is clear the topic is the blockchain. And the second thing it needs to provide illustration, representation, explanation, computing interpretation. What's the point of it? How does it work? And what's its effect? You will not earn a point for row one, essentially, if you don't do it. It's not a computational artifact. I don't know what you would hand in that wouldn't count as. Okay, let's see here. Computational artifact is something created by a human using a computer. Okay, anything digital, so you can't, get out some markers and a poster board, an actual poster board. Program, image, audio or video, web page, solve problem, show, creative expression, insight, computational innovation includes. Okay, so like I said, the most straightforward way of doing this is making what would be a poster, just a single slide, and we'll give you some tips at the end for that. So the computational artifact needs to identify what the topic is, or the innovation, computing innovation. That's your topic. Needs to explain or demonstrate, illustrate its purpose, function, or effect. It needs to the artifact illustrates a feature. Okay, so the whole point is about it needs to focus on its overall purpose, function, or effect, not just a specific feature. You're making a generalized poster, and then yeah, okay, so that's row one. Make your computational artifact. Okay, row 2 through 2 through 7 are about the written response. This is the crux. The 2 through 7. That's 6 out of the 8 rows are about the written response, which from the classroom in the shared folder, there the 2 documents, explore instructions, or 3 documents. There's the rubric, which is the thing just showing you the 8-row thing. There is the written response template, which is something that you can make a copy, make a copy, take your name out of the title, and it has all of the prompts for each of the four short answers, and there's also a space for your references. So your copy of this document is where you are actually going to put in the your responses. Um, you're going to replace where it says this is 100 words, or this is 250 words, and that's where you're actually going to put in your answers to these questions or to these writing prompts. Okay, it does say maximum 250 words. A couple places, like there's inconsistencies in some documents where it'll say approximately 250 or approximately 100. Again, the person who's grading this is a person, not a computer. They are probably going to be doing many of these in a row. Don't make it hard for them. You don't need to have 249 words. You just need to answer each of these prompts. Make it very clear. You don't have to use very poetic language. You have to just check all the boxes. And so the first two are real basic. They're only 100 words. Provide information. First one is just talking. Name your topic. What is the purpose? How does it work? And how does your poster or slide or computational artifact, how does it explain it? And do that in 100 words. Okay, you could probably do it in three complex sentences, or maybe compound sentences. I don't know if you're into whatever type of writing style. Okay, second prompt, that's 100 words. Also, describe the development process. This is literally talking about how you made your poster, your slide. What program did you use? Where did you get the images? Did you use arrows? Where is one of these as an example? Did you use, what sort, like literally how did you produce the computational artifact? The next two are a little longer, and they're more about showing that you understand the importance or the impact of your topic. 2C is explain at least one beneficial effect and at least one harmful. So you need one of each. And it has had on the society, economy, or culture. Okay, this is pretty vague, but the key is that you have one benefit, at least one beneficial, and at least one harmful. And that beneficial and that harmful can be about society, economy, culture, and the most straightforward one of those is going to be economy. If it's something that helps a business, it is that would count as economy. And
I think it's also important to state on that one, it can be future. So if it has
Potential.
a potential,
Yes.
yeah. So if you see articles saying that this could disrupt something or it could do something in the future, that counts as well.
Okay, so going through these from the standpoint of the rubric, essentially all these do not award a points for are just the reciprocal of what it has to do, and I don't use both of them. So the first one, is where is 2A. If it doesn't make sense, the first one is 2A, and that's because 2 is your written response, 1 is your computational artifact. So 2A, 2B, 2C, and 2D. 2A, the first written response template, it needs to identify the innovation and explain how it works. That's essentially getting that point for row 2. Row 3, is there not? There isn't even a row for 2B, although I wouldn't skip it. Um, anyway, the point for row 3 is about question 2C, uh, beneficial, harmful effect. Okay. So you need to make sure you're talking about you're still talking about the same innovation. Don't get distracted and choose a different topic halfway through the project. And the identified effect is actually a purpose. Okay, again, needs to be about the topic. Um, self-driving cars. Okay, beneficial. Um, do not award a point if the identified effect is not a result. Yeah, so uh, hmm. So it's saying this is a new phrasing. They must be clarifying from last year that it does a negative effect is not if it goes wrong. Because I know for a fact that that was the response for a lot of people about um, the harmful effect of a of self-driving cars would be the risk of it being hacked and crashed and that sort of thing. They do not want that, apparently. This is now being very explicit about that. So your harmful effect is not the risk of it going wrong. It's um, the harmful effect would be a trade-off, like um, industrialization has a trade-off of pollution, and it's a known harmful effect. It's not if there's the risk of pollution from industrialization. There is, and it's harmful. Okay, so but uh, for whatever your topic is. Uh, also, row 4 for 2C, um, you need. Okay, so they're breaking this into a couple points. So you get the point for row 3 if you identify at least one effect, positive or negative. That it doesn't matter. But if you get the point for row 4, you have already satisfied the requirements for row 3. Row 4 identifies beneficial um, and also identifies harmful. And same thing as before, except uh, satisfying row 4, you need a beneficial and a harmful. Um, okay, so whether something is beneficial or harmful, sometimes it's very clear which is whether something is beneficial or harmful. But if it's sort of in between, as if you're making a point that um, you know sharing music digitally is, I don't know, somehow um, harmful to. I mean, I can't even think of an explanation. But if you could make a point that it is harmful and it makes sense and it's coherent, it would count as harmful. Do you have Mr. Drusi? Do you have any insight or clarification into what I'm trying to communicate?
I don't think I do. I've been answering some questions in chat right now, so I not gonna lie, I kind of tuned you out a little bit there, but I'm just helping out people in chat.
Okay.
I think you're doing a great job, Mr. Holt. Keep it
Thank
up.
you. Thank you. I really appreciate your help, Mr. Drusi. We could not have live chat if Mr. Drusi was not here. It would be pointless and reckless. So row 4 is also row 5 also 2C, and you can just see how many rows they are, how many points or rows they're allocating for each response as to how important it is. Row C explains one of the identify. Okay, again, so if you're getting the point for row 4 and or row 5, there's no way to not get the point for row 3. So row 4 is a beneficial and a harmful, and row 5 is how it relates those beneficial or harmful. Technically says only one of them um, needs to count as or be an effect on society, economy, or culture. I don't know what category you would what type of beneficial or harmful wouldn't fall into society, economy, or culture. If you're um, able to explain it, but you're just talking about your topic. You have one beneficial, one harmful as it relates to society, economy, culture. It's starting to sound a little redundant, and that's because it is. The question for the written response is straight from the rubric or vice versa. And um, it really shouldn't be too difficult. Okay. And row 6 and 7 are about prompt 2D, which you're explaining about the actual data it's using, the computational artifact, whether it's collecting data from sensors, like a self-driving car, um, is collecting data from, radar and lidar and cameras, and um, how it's using that data and transforming it and what its output is. We use self-driving cars as sort of the basic, just sort of generic example, but I would try to think of a different topic just because um, it seems like the obvious one. Um, and I don't know, I think most of you can do, or I think you guys, it's reasonable to expect to come up with something a little more original. But I don't want to say it's not an okay topic because it is an okay topic. But for answer 2D, you need to talk specifically about its data. Okay, so you need to make sure it's clear that your your computing innovation is not the data. It is something that uses data. And in 2D, you're going to talk about the data, whether it's user data, um, location data, uh, sensors, like I said, for self-driving car, um, and explain how the computing innovation uses that data. And for row 7, part of this response is about a concern with uh, a data storage or privacy. Um, Explain one: data storage, data privacy, or data security concern related to the identified or described computing innovation. So this would also be this would be sort of where you would put the risk of it. And looking at the rubric, you can kind of seeing what your responses are expected to include might give you inspiration for the topic. If you need to come up with an example of a privacy concern with the data for your computing innovation, maybe try to think of computing innovations that have privacy concerns and then work backwards from that. It's like I said, it's great if your topic is also like your number one hobby, but it's more important that you are choosing a topic that it is possible for you to answer or satisfy all of the rows for the rubric. And then row 8 is about your references, and um, you need in-text citations, meaning inside of your written responses. That's not the example. Inside of your written responses, you need to reference what reference you used for that piece of information. And I think um, yeah, you don't get point if you don't use in-text citations. You need at least 3 different citations. Um, this is the response contains less than, or there are not 3. Oh, okay. If they don't have corresponding references, it should say there are not at least 3. Um, in-text citation may be provided in any way that acknowledges the source. Okay, so here are different examples. You can put your responses. That's the same document. Put your references in, um, you know, numerically, so that inside of the text you would just put like in brackets that number to refer to that, or by the primary author's last name, or as they show here, the according to so and so. I think the easiest way is just the numerical system or author's last name. Okay, and so that's the rubric. Let's take a look at a few examples. Well, I don't know if we'll go over all of them. Just you can take a look at these. It's going to get a lot. It's going to get. It's already feeling quite redundant, but just a quick explanation of the folder. From the classroom page, you have the written response template, which I guess, is this in Word? No, it's a Google Doc. Yeah, good. The rubric and the Explore instructions, which this document is the instructions for okay, so several places you can find a 22 or a longer document that has both the instructions for the explore and create task. This one is just for the explore task. Um, Details about production and stuff. Mostly, you need to just worry about the rubric and written response. But in this subfolder for examples, there are 4 different examples, each with their relative score. This first one, annotated sample A, the artifact and written response are just like what was actually handed in. And then there is this one, which is about that written response and that computational artifact, and it explains the grader's rationale for the person earning those points. This sample A, the blockchain one, and the written response all earned the full 8 points, and this annotated explanation goes through each row and explains why they got the point or did not get the point. Okay, so that's just for example A, sample A, sample E. It's not A, B, C, D through J because some of them are for the create task. Sample B, C, and D I think are for create task, but either way, sample E got a 6 out of 8, H got a 4 out of 8, and J got a 1 out of 8. This one missed points essentially for the responses, the first couple responses, and it explains how they did that. Okay, so I think that's about it. Mr. Drusi, do you have anything that I may have skipped?
No, I think if people have general questions, pages 7 and 8 of the instructional document, the Explore instructions is a great place to look through. It kind of does bullet points of like what you have to do, what you can do, and then what not to do.
Yeah.
I think it's also important to take note that um, this is like an in-class assignment, but we as your teachers are technically not allowed to help you with it because it's part of your AP um, score. So we're not allowed to like review it. We're not allowed to proofread or anything along those lines. And you're also not allowed to have peer-to-peer collaboration as well. So this is all kind of on your own. Um, but besides that, I think that's probably quite a bit of information today. There's lots to go over in there. I highly recommend reading this. Take a little bit of time and look through everything that was sent to you.
I agree that we are. I mean, it says that we are not allowed to, explicitly help you. But if you ask a question and say, you know, do you think, is this a harmful effect on society? If you just ask a question like that, there's no reason why we couldn't answer it. But we definitely can't um, take a look at your work and, proofread it and edit it and that sort of thing. Um, so there's that. Um, when we talk about the performance task, or excuse me, the create task, the one where you're actually making an app in App Lab, we there's a little more leeway for helping you debug things, but again, for the most part, this is a individual. Both of these are individual assignments because of the College Board standards for um, because of their standards. Okay, so if there are no other questions, um, just a recount. We're going to do the create task tomorrow during stream, and then on Monday we're going to pick up where we left off yesterday, which was wrapping up lesson 12 and um, starting lesson 13. I don't think we're going to be doing 5 days a week um, going forward, but we might. But regardless, we will post when the next days when the next stream is um, at some point during the evening, so you will know when you check it. Okay. All right. So I guess that's it. Um, we'll see you guys tomorrow. All right. See you later.
Wash your hands.
Yep.